What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. I want to talk a little about some franchise news regarding the London Royal Ravens. They have moved to a different location. I want to talk about what it means for the team, what it means for the European Call of Duty scene, what it means for the CDL. Let's dive in on all thoughts in regards to the announcement this morning. So this is the announcement right here. The London Royal Ravens have moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. They will now be called the Carolina Royal Ravens. We'll get to that in a minute. They put out a tweet this morning. Wanted to thank all their London fans. Throw back to the CDL major in 2020, which was the first major of the season. Even though, opening weekend was a big event, that was not the first major, I guess. And, they had this cool kind of graphic video thingamabob with the logo reveal. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to be called the Carolina Royal Ravens. That's my first takeaway. It's like, if they were going to do this move, they should have done a full rebrand. I think keeping the Royal Ravens name, like, there's no... And this is the issue I think we've had with a number of these rebrands of Call of Duty, especially the CDL. There's no, history. It's just a couple of years of history. There's no real meaning behind the brand. So, they should have done a full rebrand instead of applying Carolina to something that doesn't really, apply. Especially because there's a crown now. That doesn't really make a lot of sense either. So, okay. So, a couple of thoughts here. I don't know where to start. Let's start with what it means for Europe and the UK Call of Duty scene. It's been a real downward trend, I think, for the scene. And I just want to be clear, I'm not talking about the players, because I think there's a lot of really good quality players in Europe, especially in the UK. Although I will say that, the majority of the first generation of UK Call of Duty players have all essentially retired outside of bans. I'm more talking about the orgs, Royal Ravens, Unilad, Team Reciprocity, Red Reserve. There's just a history of this UK based org, and they all either had issues, went under, never won championships. They never really netted and got to a point where they were a mainstay as far as being championship contenders. Red and Unilad were solid teams. I think especially Red is probably the best full UK situation that we've had. They made it to a final and they couldn't get it done. And they were always a top 3, top 4 team. They never really took that next step to be where we see some of the big brands in the game are right now as far as their championship situation. And on top of that, we've never had a UK organization. And I believe, if someone wants to fact check me, UK player ever won a COD Champs ring. So that's a little bit of an issue there. So yeah, I mean, we basically have no CDL teams in Europe, no CDL teams in the UK. I think that, going forward for UK players, the full UK team is kind of dead in the CDL. I don't see Carolina Royal Ravens doing a full UK team. I know there's been people on Reddit they should do Bance and Hixie and Wardy and Nasty, and I'm just no. I think the best path forward at this point with the rebrand is a mixed team. We've seen what's happened over those full UK teams the last couple of years. I think the best example is Ravens from Vanguard. They were decent, but they sucked at one game mode and weren't a real contender. And then even when they got to the business end of a tournament, they were no match for any of the other top teams. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much kind of it on that full UK team. We'll still see them in challengers. But considering that this, last year we only had one event, those crossover, don't know if we're gonna get that again this year. I think for now that's kind of dead. And really the only organization that's made, an impact with UK players has really been the Toronto Ultra. I mean, they've surfaced, a number of the UK players that we see in the league today, and they were the one that have won championships. London wasn't able to do that. So my second thought is this actually weirdly enough opens the door to a London Call of Duty event. I think because of the franchise rules and sort of how things worked within that ecosystem, doing a London event required the support of the London Royal Ravens, and they haven't done one since 2020. And to be honest, that event may have looked great on stream, but operationally, schedule wise, there were a lot of issues, I think, with that event. The hesitancy as to why there hasn't been one since, at least on the Ravens part. But there's interest out there, I think, from some of the other bigger orgs to want to do something in London. I think that's now that the London Royal Ravens opposition is clear that I think the league would be open to that. So I do think that this is, in a weird way, increase the chance of a UK event, UK major at some point down the line. I think my sort of last point is this is just another example as to why city-based franchising has just been a woefully bad idea. This is now, we're now in the the 5th season of the league, and we've had rebrands in every single year of the league. We're not going to count the first year because it's all new brands, but all the other 4 have either rebrands or new franchises or new ownership coming in. And it speaks towards the lack of impact the city-based franchising has been able to do as far as revenue streams for these teams, being able to market the players locally, engage locally within these markets. It was not a particularly good idea to begin with, and it still isn't a good idea now. And the fact that the London Royal Ravens weren't able to market their team in what is a very good market for Call of Duty in the UK kind of speaks towards, I think, the issues of one of the many issues the city-based franchising had. So I do think we're sort of near the end of that era. I just don't see how post the merger with Microsoft, and we're seeing what's happening with Overwatch League, that Activision is going to continue this sort of experiment with city-based franchising. We've already seen reporting as early as this summer via Jacob Hale that the league is exploring and teams are exploring going away from it. So, you know, this is one of many examples as to why I think it's dead and is going to eventually be completely dead at some point. I would say either next offseason or the offseason after. It's just clear of all the opposition to be able to make that change and move forward with going back to something a little bit more akin to what we had prior to the CDL. So a lot of you are probably going to ask, okay, well now, like, who's going to be the roster for this team? Honestly, I have no idea. There's been no rumors about this organization and what they were going to do as far as players. They basically have told like former players, former staff that they were going to basically punt on the roster construction until the fall. My guess is because they don't want to pay anybody until the season starts. So just like what we're seeing with LAG, just like we're seeing with Vegas, all three of those situations are going to take their sweet time announcing a team. Now, I do think there are some interesting EU-based players or UK-based players that they can make as part of this team, but I do think it's going to be a mixed situation. And I would say for Royal Ravens that they should stay away from players they've tried a couple of times in NA and potentially go for new blood. So I'm very curious to see what they do. I just have no sense of direction on how they're going to build this roster. I don't even know who's running the COD team because they let go of all their staff. So like, I don't even know who's, and no one seems to know who's making the real decisions here. So, you know, we have the rebrand, great. But as far as knowing who's going to be on the team, nothing yet so far. We'll report on anything that comes out, but at the moment it is silent on that front. Yeah, that'll do it for this video. I'll have more thoughts probably on stream in regards to this, but let me know what you guys think of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.